As we enter the second week of the new year, it's clear that everyone's still adjusting to the work pace. However, this week brought some notable developments at the United Nations. During her final Security Council session on Sudan, U.S. Permanent Representative Linda Thomas-Greenfield announced her departure as President-elect Trump prepares to take office later this month.
Despite the devastating reality they face, for all the disappointment that I couldn't do more, that we, all of us, didn't do more, I still remain hopeful. Hopeful that the representatives sitting around this table, the colleagues who have become friends, will continue this sacred mission, this ultimate responsibility. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the Security Council also held a session on Syria. Syria's permanent representative, Qusay al-Dahak, stressed that all foreign forces should leave Syria to its own people. He also urged Israel to withdraw its presence from southern Syria. On the Chinese side, Permanent Representative Fu Cong voiced his great concern about senior military positions in the Syrian army being granted to foreign terrorist fighters, including members of the Turkish Islamic Party TIP, a known terrorist group.
据报道，叙利亚军队近日向多名外国恐怖作战分子授予高级职位，其中包括安理会列明的恐怖组织突厥伊斯兰党，也就是东伊运的头目。中方对此表示严重关切。我们呼吁叙利亚履行反恐义务，防止任何恐怖势力利用叙领土威胁别国安全。
Geir Pedersen, the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Syria, reiterated the UN's commitment to engaging with the caretaker government to advance the political process.
We are ready to work with the caretaker authorities on how the nascent and important ideas and steps so far articulated and initiated could be developed towards a credible and inclusive political transition.
However, a key question remains. How will the UN engage with the Security Council-listed terrorist group beyond its current humanitarian efforts?
Mr. Pedersen and other UN officials are doing their work based on a mandate given to them by member states. It doesn't imply recognition. It doesn't mean we're violating any Security Council resolutions.
So it doesn't matter they are still a terrorist group.
It's not that it doesn't matter, is that we have a mandate to fulfill, and we're fulfilling it. There are other parts in the world where we have to talk to groups who may be on lists as well, and we do it because they're the de facto authorities in a place, and we have to do it to fulfill our mandate. So and it doesn't stop us from condemning actions when those actions need to be condemning wherever they occur in the world.
Well, the Security Council may provide the mandate, but at the end of the day, a terrorist group is still a terrorist group. Now, turning to Gaza. Over the weekend, an Israeli attack targeted a World Food Program convoy in this area. It's hard to keep count of how often such incidents have occurred.
We heard this many times, that the Israeli militant forces, they shot WFP UN-related convoys. This one, I don't believe you mentioned the excuse or rather any response from the Israeli authority. But let me wind back the clock a little bit earlier to all other incidents. Do you have any of those incidents that UN received any explanation from Israeli authority?
I don't think there's an explanation for shooting at a clearly marked convoy from the World Food Program, whose movements,
or maybe excuse,
excuse me, whose movements had been completely coordinated with the Israeli security forces. We don't know if it's an issue of command and control, if a message got lost. We don't know. Right, and I think our colleagues at the World Food Program are trying to get the answers.
In other news, the UN released its World Economic Situation and Prospects report. It projects global economic growth to remain steadily at 2.8% in 2025, unchanged from 24. This raises the question, how might Trump's tariff strategies impact these projections?
I think previous experience shows that people do respond to tariffs in different ways. And so one has to look at what comes out of the wash, as it were, when these moves and counter moves have actually played out. So in our modeling, we prefer to wait for some of these strategic moves by countries to actually play out. And that gives us a more stable basis for projecting forward.
Oh, speaking of Trump, this week he made some particularly bold statements. During a press conference, the president-elect suggested he wouldn't rule out using military means to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
How has the UN responded?
Do you think that would be a right thing to do from the UN's perspective? It's not about the administrations,
far be it for me to advise any administration or oncoming administration. So I think that's a good question to ask analysts.
But go ahead.
Thank you, Dezhi. As I said, one administration at a time, and I'm also not going to get dragged in a Alice and Wonderland hole into speculative comments.
Interestingly, both Panama and Denmark, Greenland's governing nation, are current Security Council members. What do they have to say, or perhaps not to say, on this matter?
You must notice that President-elect Trump actually said he's not ruling out the military options to acquire the canal.
I heard that.
Yeah, so do you feel concerned?
I don't feel anything.
Ambassador, any thoughts on this? Ambassador, could you stop for a moment and speak to us about Greenland, about this issue?
As for accusations that China is controlling Panama Canal, here's what Chinese Ambassador Fu Cong had to say.
And China is not controlling, but China is an important user of the canal. And we have been working closely with the government of Panama.
And that's all from me for now.